soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. When I am on your shoulders, you raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up to more than I can be.
In the biblical version of the creation, on the sixth day, just about everything was done. But there are no details, which leaves a great opening for legends and storytellers like me. So on the sixth day, just about everything was done. The cosmos was created, the sun, the stars, the moon, and the earth. And the earth was just about finished. It had oceans and lakes and streams and rivers. The land was covered with plants and shrubs and bushes and all kinds of beautiful things. The birds were there, the insects, the fish, and the animals. God was particularly pleased with the animals because they came in an limitless variety. Little ones like hamsters, big ones like dogs, really big ones like dinosaurs. The animals were just so interesting. But God wanted something more because the animals were so predictable. They only did what God allowed them to do. They had no free will. They had no choices to make. They had to be an animal. So God wanted something more interesting. So God reached down to the planet Earth and scooped up 5 different kinds of sand and clay and loam, the 5 sacred colors of the earth: black and white, red and brown, and yellow, the 5 sacred colors. And God squeezed this material into the shape of a human being and put the human being in a garden called Eden. And God breathed life into this clay creature. And Adam arose from the ground. And he stretched himself out because he was so stiff from just being made, almost like arthritis. The first thing he did was to explore himself, his own body, and all the interesting parts that it has. Then he explored the garden, and he discovered the smell of the flowers, and the taste of the fruit, the color of the sky. And then he introduced himself to the animals, and he found that the animals could all speak the same language that he could speak, and all of them were vegetarians. It never occurred to a living creature that it should sting or bite or eat another living creature. They were all vegetarians. And he explored and he played with the animals and he had the most wonderful day. But the most interesting thing of all to him, the most amazing thing, was the sun. Because the sun was the one thing that he could not touch, and it gave light and warmth. And he watched with incredulity as the sun came up from the east side of the garden, and it went higher and higher in the sky. And he observed that as the sun got higher, the day got brighter and warmer, and the shadows were shorter. When the sun was at the top, it was very bright, very warm, and there were no shadows at all. And he continued to enjoy his day and watched as the sun went down the other side, and the shadows came back, but this time on the other side, and it got cooler and not quite as bright. And he watched as the sun went down to the very edge of the garden. Now, never having seen the phenomena before, he assumed that the sun would bounce and go back the other way. But it didn't bounce. It sank below the edge of the garden. It got darker and colder. And he went up to a high hill to see if maybe he could look over the edge and see what had happened to the sun and was it coming back. But it wasn't. It was getting colder and darker. And he sat on that hilltop, staring in disbelief and horror at the place the sun had disappeared. And as he shivered and cried and sobbed, he thought to himself, "That's it? That's all there is? I'll freeze to death. I won't find plants to eat. The big gray stomper will step on me in the dark, not realizing that I'm around. This is terrible. And he cried for what seemed like just about forever. And then something strange happened. The sky began to get light, and he felt warmth on his back. And he whirled around, and there was the sun. But it was on that side of the garden. He didn't understand. So he asked God. And God explained to him the 14th verse of the first chapter of the book of Exodus. And God said, "From the time the sun goes down until the next time the sun goes down, this is called a day. There are 7 days in a week. There are 4 weeks in a month. There are 12 months in a year." And then God stopped speaking. Now Adam knew how big time is. He called all the animals together. And he said, "Listen, my friends, I know how big time is because God has told me. This day is followed by 6 more to make a week. This week is followed by 3 more to make a month. And this month is followed by 11 more to make a year. And then, I think the time runs out because God didn't say anything more." Oh, my friends, hamsters and dogs and dinosaurs, we have to enjoy ourselves because the time is going to run out in a year. And he did. He did enjoy himself. He took long walks in the garden. He went for swims in the stream. He built things. Oh, he just had the most wonderful time. But he was counting. He was counting the days and the weeks and the months. And he was getting more and more nervous and worried about the time when it would run out. And on the last day of the last week of the last month, he decided to go to every living creature in the garden to say goodbye. He went to the great big gray stomper that has a funny thing hanging down in front. And he said, "Big gray stomper, this is the last day. The sun will go down and never come up, and I won't see you again. I hope you won't step on me in the dark, but because it's the last day, I have something important to say to you. Do you remember the time that I was building a house and I asked you to move a heavy log for me, and you didn't move it fast enough, and I kicked you in your back leg? Oh, I know it didn't hurt you. Your skin is so tough. But still, I should not have done that. That was not a nice thing. I was impolite and impatient. I'm sorry that I kicked you in your back leg and scolded you. I need to tell you that I'm sorry for that and anything else that I might have done to hurt you. And I wanted to say goodbye, and I love you." He went to the brown furry thing that lives in a cave and growls. And he said, "Brown furry thing, today is the last day, and I'll never see you again. And because it's the last day, I want to say goodbye, and I want to apologize for the day that I found a nest of honey that the bees had abandoned in an old tree. And I know that you love honey as much as I do, but I didn't tell you about it. I ate it all myself, and I made myself sick. That was selfish, and I should not have done that. I'm sorry that I was selfish, and for anything else that I might have done to hurt you during this year. Came to say goodbye and to tell you that I love you. And he kissed it on the cold, wet, black part in the front. He went to the black thing that flies in the sky and screeches, and he said, "Black thing that flies, today's the last day, and I wanted to apologize for the time that you were sitting in my favorite fruit tree and I threw stones at you to drive you away. There was no reason to do that. There was more fruit on that tree than either of us could eat, and you weren't doing any harm, and I can't go up that high anyway. That was mean. I should not have done that. So I want to apologize for having been mean, and because it's the last day, to say goodbye and to tell you that I love you and that I will miss you." And he kissed the black thing on the sharp, pointy part that stuck out in front. Adam spent the whole day going from one creature to another, apologizing for anything that he might have done, that he knew he'd done, that he thought, well, perhaps he could have. Maybe just in case I did anything. Went to every living creature. And the sun, of course, made its way across the sky and went down. And even after it was dark, he crawled around on all fours to find the littlest things that he had missed during the day. The worms, the slimy things that live under rocks, the slithery things that go down holes. He found as many living things as he could, apologized, said goodbye, told them that he loved them. And after what seemed like just about forever, something strange happened. Just after he had finished picking up, apologizing to, and kissing a purple beetle, the sky got light, and he felt warmth on his back. And he whirled around, and there was the sun. Oh, he was ever so grateful to see the sun. But he didn't understand. And God began speaking again. And God said, 10 years is a decade. 10 decades is a century. 10 centuries is a millennium. 10 millennia are an epoch. 10 epochs are an eon. 10 eons are... But by then he'd fallen asleep. He was exhausted. But when he woke up in the middle of the afternoon and he realized how big time really is, he made a promise to himself. From now on the last day of every year of my life, I will spend the day apologizing to all those living things that I may have hurt, that I may have insulted, that I even unknowingly could have done harm to. And I will remind them that I love them and how wonderful it is to be alive. Thank you.